Well, good morning. Dr. Glen here with another Monday morning motivation. So this morning I wanted to continue on with our theme of back to school, and we're going to be talking about the major musculoskeletal change or muscle bone change that happens in our youth, and that's scoliosis. Now, scoliosis is a side-to-side curve that's happening in the spine, and it's only 3 to 6%, so it doesn't seem like it should be that important. But when you think about it, when it's happening in our younger individuals, this is the time when the spine is really maturing and growing and developing. It's molding into that mature spine that we're going to have for the rest of our life. So it's really a time we want to be able to see if something is happening, so we can at least monitor it, and if it's starting to develop outside of normal ranges, then we can have some early interventions, and there are lots and lots of different treatment options available if we catch these things early. Very different story than all these adults I have coming into the clinic with scoliotic curves and lots of different issues arising from that, and now we're just dealing with the consequences rather than actually trying to deal with the scoliosis, because we just can't once that spine is mature. So we're going to use scoliosis for two different reasons this morning. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you how you can screen your own children, which is a lot of fun, and you'll be able to do that quite simply from home. But number two, I wanted to talk about the reason why scoliosis happens. And by far the majority of scoliotic curves are insidious in nature. It means that we don't know the reason for it. And a lot of people will hear that and they'll assume that there's no reason for it. And that's not the truth. What happens is there's no reason that we know of for the curves. There's most certainly a reason why that spine is starting to shift side to side. So whenever I hear the term insidious, I automatically start thinking of small environmental changes over time. And what happens is if that environmental stressor is outside of our normal environment, then the body's going to respond to that differently. It's not going to respond optimally, but it's going to respond in a state that's actually stressful. And now over time, those stressful changes are going to lead to a state of dis-ease in the body, and we name those diseases later on in life as some kind of syndrome such as scoliosis. So I think it becomes a very important conversation to have, that these small environmental stressors are so important. That's why we talked about backpack safety a couple weeks ago. Improperly loading our children's spine or loading them too much is most certainly a reason why we can compress discs and cause curves to happen. Possibly it's putting our children on the old family bed, and it's amazing how many times we give the kids the worst bed in the family, and they should have the best. Those are the kids that their spines are growing and developing. We need to support a healthy spine in our youth. Possibly it's a nutritional stress, perhaps a mental emotional. We know now for certainty that mental emotional stresses will have physical changes in our bodies. So remember those when we're thinking about these different conditions and syndromes. Most certainly there's a reason, and when we don't know them, start thinking about those small environmental things that are happening that the body's either responding well to or possibly responding to in a stressful way, leading to conditions later on in life. Now the second part, the fun part, how do we actually screen our children at home for scoliosis? So what I want you to do is grab your children, line them up, and you're going to be looking at them from the back. You want their tops off, but leave the bottoms on, because we're going to be using that for a level line. So you're looking from the back, and the first thing you want to do is look at their head and make sure that it's not tilting off to the side or possibly even rotating a little bit. Now it's not going to be as drastic as what I'm showing you here. There'll be small, mild changes side to side. So that's the first thing. The next thing you want to look at is their shoulders. And not that one shoulder is low, that's a common postural thing for handedness, but instead you want to see if one shoulder appears to be hiked up a little bit closer to the ear than the other side. In the shoulders, you also want to look for rotation, and typically what you'll see is one shoulder rotating forward compared to the other. You can also look at the shoulder blade, and you might see that one shoulder blade is coming off the spine a little bit more than the other. As we go down into the upper back, you also want to look for ribs, and we call it rib humping. Very tough to see, but you'll see one set of ribs is a little bit pushed back compared to the other. Now to make it more obvious, what you do is you have your child flex forward at the waist, and you look from the back over top of the ribs. And what you'll see is this rib hump, or one side of the ribs are a little bit higher than the other side. As you come down into the waist, you want to look for the waist folds. So they should have kind of nice even folds on either side. With scoliosis, sometimes you'll see a flattening on one side and the maintaining crease on the other, or an increased crease on one side. And then go down to the hip levels themselves. This is where you want to look at the belt line or the underwear line and see if it's just one hip is a little bit low compared to the other. So you know where we are. All of this is on the website. I don't know how we create the link, but I'm sure there'll be a link here somewhere sending you back to our website where there'll be a picture and you can look at all these different changes. If you have any questions, if anything little shows up, by all means call your friendly local chiropractor. We have a few good ones here in the office. give us a call. We'd be happy to screen your children for you and let you know if there is something that we want to look into further, or if it's maybe just a postural shift that we can deal with in other ways. Dr. Glen at rfwellness.ca. Again, the link is down here somewhere. If I don't hear from you, have a wonderful, safe week, and I look forward to speaking with you next Monday morning.